All right, it's Thursday, September 1st, first day of the month. I'm going to do a pre-opening video on the SPY. We're about 2 hours away from the open, so a lot can still happen pre-market, but nevertheless, kind of see what's going on and we can kind of know what to look for today. If you look at the recap video yesterday, I discussed how we are heading down for 4 days in a row. That creates little exhaustion risk at any time in terms of momentum to the downside, and yet we're starting a new month red, so we expect in terms of this kind of shoot of our red, so we are expecting the lows of the month to be taken out, which actually occurred yesterday. So I mean, and even 1 day down, we'll start a red continue to break the lows of that bar on August, and then you have to see if we head down to the bottom of that range. It doesn't mean within 1 or 2 days we might start up again and turn the month green temporarily. So you just got to keep that in mind. But nevertheless, the overall trend on the weekly chart is still down. We have this target down here. And some of these lines I'll show you, they're different targets and different key levels. I'll explain those in a second. But, so this week we have 2 days left. We still have a target down there. And you can see here, this in a second, I'll show you, this is the overnight action and pre-market action. We're in a range and we haven't quite reached that target yet. So, if we break below this line this morning, we could be hitting that target and then immediately, either pausing or maybe even reversing. I'm not convinced we're going to get a big reversal to the update today, but anyway, you'll just have to see if we pause there, or maybe we get a lot of more, nothing happens and we head down to the next target quickly. So we'll find that out later today. But nevertheless, my point is the weekly chart is still down, and in order for this week to turn up, you would need to see, first of all, we're below the midpoint of last week. That's what this red line is. So we clearly have a down bias, and we have 2 days to go in this week. So what would have to happen this week for it to start looking positive? It would have to kind of come up to the open of, that's this blue line here, the open of the week. We're not anywhere near that. And at this point, let's say we rally, somehow we come down, hit these targets and rally for a couple of days. It's just going to be kind of a neutral looking bar, and then we can know what the midpoint of this bar is going into next week. But anyway, I don't want to get too far ahead on that. Bottom line is we're still down. So what I drew here, as long as we hold the midpoint of yesterday on the daily chart, now we look at the daily time frame, we'll continue to have a down bias. You can see here, I'm getting to it in a second, the pre-market and overnight action has a range here. You can see it's already been a lot lower pre-market, so we're going to be below the midpoint. And again, the only way I could really see things failing today, I mean, having upside, failing to go down and having upside buys today, is if we either start, which I don't anticipate, if this pre-market action with 2 hours to go really expands to the upside and we almost start at the midpoint of yesterday and start higher with the opening price action, then that could cause it to have an up, a little kind of a counter move back to the upside in this downtrend. Or it's possible we start down here early, take out the lows of that bar, and then immediately have some kind of reversal. We take out the pre-market highs, whatever they are, and then we try to anticipate, can we take out the midpoint of that bar to have an outside day to the upside? So in other words, either we get some kind of strong opening to the upside, it's not anywhere near that yet, or we can have a failure to the downside early on that takes out whatever pre-market high there is, and then at that point we're still not at the midpoint of that day to really feel comfortable. We'd be in major conflict there with a big downtrend on the bigger time frames and up on the shorter time frames, and yet we're not above the midpoint of the prior bar. So all those things come into play as the opening develops. But what we're looking here is, here's the range I've drawn in at the moment. Sometimes I just, you just use common sense when you kind of look at the pre-market action. Do we want to include just the overnight action here, or do we also include some of the aftermarket price action from yesterday as well? It all combines on the chart, but you just kind of use common sense to pick out the highs and lows that you're going to look at. And to me, this is what I see on this chart developing. And we came down big overnight. You can see we're starting to get a little bit of buying in here. So we'll have to just see in the next couple hours where this ends up. And then as always, we're going to kind of look at the opening price action relative to this range? Do we break above it to even consider going long? Do we fail up there and continue down and then have a kind of if it's a big range, then we might have a target here. If we have this as a target, let's say we open up in the middle and then start down, I would say this would be the first target you're going to reach. And then at that point, that low is, it took out this target on the chart, and then you can see we're very close to the weekly target. So to me, if we come down, if we have some kind of opening that goes short and we hit this target, we're so close to the weekly target down here, I would expect to hit that, which on the weekly chart is over here. And then at that point, that would be all I would expect on the day. And maybe it would be kind of a thing where it could be the first push, and then you can get a pause and a second push to that target, or maybe the very first push will hit that target and that'll be all you get for the day, and you'd have to see how price action reacts to that target. If you get a very strong, pullback after, let's say we come down very big and hit that weekly target, and then you don't get the orderly pullback I like to see for a second push down, then you can know that you've kind of, doesn't mean to go long or anything, but it means you've exhausted to the downside. So a lot of things to watch today with a down bias. And we'll just have to see how things open. But overall, on the month, I still think we are going to take this low out and head down. I've explained many times, if you watch the videos, why I think this is an inside bar here that failed to the upside. And when you fail to the upside and have this kind of a bar, at least on the monthly time frame, which we have all September now to kind of work our way to the lower end of the range. And even if we get some kind of pullback today of some kind that is in conflict, or is even a reversal day, and we maybe have a couple of days up, I'm still looking for all kinds of, at that point into, next week, let's say we do somehow fail down here, come up by Friday and Monday and Tuesday, I'll be looking still to get short again until conditions really change on the daily chart and into the weekly chart, whatever the next week brings. I'm still holding the bias to the downside of this range in some form. And I'll continue, to get excited if we get some failures to the upside and then start back down again. So this may be a tough day trading. I said that yesterday too, but it ended up pretty clear going down. But again, I think it's the type of thing where we're getting ready to hit targets here. So if we get short trades, look to take the profits with base hits at this point. Don't necessarily expect too much momentum, even though it's possible. And, if we get reversal to the upside again, I'd be nimble on those trades too a little bit, because it's just hard to, given the opening price action today, I see a lot of stocks are way, way down. Just hard to believe they're going to reverse, or fail to the downside and have big reversals to the upside. But although anything's possible, we'll watch price action. So that's it for today. We're going to have 2 more hours. Let's see what the range we get and keep all these levels in mind and kind of keep, the context in mind.